Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome, everybody. You know, every second Wednesday, we love to chat with authors with our friends, Books Forward. I tell you what, they know the best authors on the planet. And today we get to chat with debut author Ann Bancroft, and her novel is out now. It was just released 2 weeks ago. It's called Almost Family, and you can go to her website, annbancroftauthor.com, and that's Ann with no E on the end. There's another Ann Bancroft, but she is the author. But it's interesting because she's actually comes from a journalist background. So it's interesting when journalists and communication experts go into novel writing. So welcome, Ann. How are you?
Hi, thank you. It's so good to be here. Appreciate it.
I'm glad to have you here too, because we're going to talk a lot about people really reclaiming their lives, literally, right? You go through, so someone gets that terminal diagnosis, and then it's like, uh-oh, I better get out there and enjoy myself, or just
Hmm.
call it a day, right? It kind of shakes you at that point. So, did
Yeah.
this story sit with you for a while? And like,
Oh
what got you
gosh,
to go from like real like because you were in the newsroom, right?
I
And
was.
yeah, and so to go from that to this is a jump.
Well, yeah, it was. I was a reporter for 25 years, and then I was a communications director for a while. And I did get cancer myself. It was not
Mm,
terminal, fortunately, or I wouldn't be here
yay.
right now. Um,
Yay.
yeah, and that it kind of it gave me an impetus to quit my job, not because I had to, but because I thought, do I really want to spend my remaining years? Because it could have been just two, it could have been many.
Mm,
I did not know. After a first diagnosis, cancer patients, myself included, are scared, and
mm-hmm.
it does hit home that your time could be limited. So I thought, I don't want to be in this windowless office anymore. I love the outdoors. I want to have some agency over my own time. And so I started taking some fiction writing classes, some short story classes.
Mm,
And, the last thing I wanted to write about was cancer. So, of course, I
right.
wound up writing about cancer just because I guess I needed to. And I started with a short story about, I think I wrote about a cancer walk. Um, that maybe parts of that wound up as one chapter in my book.
Mm,
And then, and then uh, also after a couple of years or after a year or so, I started mentoring cancer patients. And some of them uh, were very different from me. And yet we shared this kind of profound connection
mm,
because I had been through what they'd been through. And it was quite an intimate experience. I would sit through oncology appointments and take notes. That's what I was good at from being a reporter, or go wig shopping or go out to coffee or tell them how to read their pathology reports, that kind of thing. And these are people I would never have been connected with
right.
otherwise. I would not have met them. And
Mm,
so I guess that was the germ of the idea that for this novel where three people meet in a support group and they have metastatic cancer, um, they're all very different from one another. And yet this diagnosis connects them in a profound way.
mm.
So, and I wanted it to be funny because who doesn't want to have fun with cancer and die?
You have to. I mean, whenever something serious happens, I don't know, we get the giggles, and we're not good people at funerals either because we get the giggles, and it's a stress release.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
that hysteria that sneaks in. It's like I'm a bad person to go to church with, or through something like that, because
Right. Right at the wedding vows, you're cracking up or
exactly,
something. Yeah.
exactly. And if something happens, I remember my mom always telling me the story of one of her aunts had passed, or her aunt's husband had passed, and they
Uh-huh.
went to the funeral, and she was one of those women that really wailing and very
Oh gosh.
la-di-da.
It's
And so
hard
they
not to
lower
laugh.
his, they lower his casket down, and her hat blew in, and she jumped in, And
Oh my
so
God.
and they were kids, and how are you not going to lose it, right?
How are
It's
you
like
not?
you're going to lose it, and you lose it at the worst places and times, and that's what gets you through. And I know I'm very close to the cancer community. My mom actually is primarily a wildlife artist, but when we lived in South Africa, toured the country with her art, raising funds for the Cancer Association. So as a
Uh-huh.
kid, I'd go into yeah, actual medical facilities where there were kids, and here I was a kid. And then I felt like, oh, and I had, long hair, and I was like, I better cut my hair off. Here are these kids
Oh
my
gosh.
age.
Yeah.
And, but it was, and I was like, well, what do I have to say? But you have, don't, and I think people ignore this. So that's what I'm hoping with Almost Family is that it kind of gives this bridge of insight because, you can have a really good friend says, oh, I just got cancer. And then you're like, oh, now what do I say? What do I do? How
What
do
do
I
I
behave? Are
say?
we allowed to
Yes.
make things light? So I think
Right.
it's important what you've written because and sometimes you really do need the almost family to pull through, not always the person who knows all your little things that want to pick on you.
Right. Yeah, or people are afraid. They're afraid of cancer. They see somebody who obviously has cancer, either
Hmm.
because of baldness or your skin turns kind of gray, and
Mm.
um, you get that look of, oh my God, you might die right in front of me right now. You can tell that people are frightened, don't know what to say, all of that. And so I wanted to cut through some of that
Mm.
and and talk about it. So these three characters, they do meet in the support group, which is just dreadful. And
Mm.
it meets in the Nordstrom employee training room
Oh,
in
fun.
this and they have green tea and flax bars for snacks, and just the facilitators in over her head. And so that's the setting where they meet, but they decide this is not what we want to do, sitting around and talking about cancer. We want to go out and have some fun and
Mm.
live life. And of course, they do wind up sometimes talking about their illness, but they are going through their illnesses, but they want to enjoy life while they can. And
Mm.
I think I just lost the earbud. Sorry. Excuse me. This popped out. Um, so I wanted to make the point that we're all living until we're not.
Mhm. Right.
We are completely living until we're not. And because we might have a serious illness doesn't mean we're not who we are, who we've always been.
Mm.
And um, people with cancer aren't thinking about cancer all the time. They might be worried about the same stupid stuff we worry about,
Hmm.
when we don't have cancer.
Well, tell us a little bit about Liz, your main character, because
Hmm.
I think that will give people that insight as to what you're talking about in regards to, what does she do with her daughter, or does she, there's things that we all have that we're like, okay, do we really how far do we change, or do we go making amends? What do we do? Or do we go and just say, you know I'm going to go to the
This is
Grand
it.
Canyon or whatever it is, Thelma and Louise it. No,
Yeah.
don't do that. The Grand Canyon's tired of people doing that. But
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, there are better places. No.
yeah, yeah.
Um, well, I wanted this kind of came from the notion of what if,
Hmm.
um, which is always a good way to start fiction if you've never done it
Hmm.
before, I think. Well, in my case, I had a supportive family, wonderful friends, coworkers. They couldn't have been nicer, and I had good health insurance and great doctors and all of that. But what if I didn't? What if um, I was estranged from my family, and um, the very worst breakup I'd ever had in my life happened while I was getting cancer treatment. All of these things do happen. If you go in
Hmm.
cancer chat rooms, the husband leaves. It's not
Yep, it's
pretty,
happened to friends of mine. Yeah. It's like, I
you
don't want to
know.
go through this. And it's like, what happened through sickness and,
Yeah, and health and all that.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
yeah. So I put Liz. She's sort of a hard charging PR executive. She was in an alcoholic marriage for way too many
Mm.
years. and that sort
Mm,
of shaped her and formed her. She became quite a control freak and also isolated, which happens. Um, and the way she wound up
mm,
getting out of her marriage was to have an affair with a totally inappropriate guy. Not that there's anybody appropriate if you're married, but this guy, I don't want to do spoiler alerts, but
yeah, don't, no spoilers.
as a result, she finds herself estranged from her daughter and
Mm,
realizes she comes to grips that her attempts to be in control all the time and sweep things under the rug and not really deal with her life as it was, um, it caused her to be isolated from people. She did not know.
mm.
She got to a point in her life, and where she is at the beginning of the story, she really doesn't know how to love. She doesn't know how to just be.
That's interesting to discover that too at that time frame because you're in survival mode too. And
Mhm.
survival makes you in it because sometimes some people are always in survival mode, which is why we have psychologists, but
Right.
and psychiatrists and therapists and life coaches, right? Because survival mode is a natural. And as you know,
Mhm.
as we grow up, we start to learn like, hey, we're allowed to have some fun, trust yourself more, but
Right.
you can, that's kind of that survival mode. And then it's like, well, now you really need to be in survival mode. And you're like, oh, duty. I've been doing
Right.
this my whole life and yeah, I'm prepared for it, but now I don't want to be that anymore. Isn't that's
Yeah.
very natural. It's a very real thing for people.
Yeah. And so she meets these two other people who aren't that way. Dave, who's got just a gigantic heart. He's
Mm.
a big, loud gay man who was a Vietnam vet who, and is a veterinarian,
Oh,
who takes care of the pets of homeless people. And then Rhonda,
oh.
who is a devout Christian, which Liz most certainly is not. This gives her, uh, this makes her nervous,
Mm,
because she herself has, I'll say, grappled with faith, but she had lost faith along the way. And so she's a little suspicious of Rhonda, but Rhonda is just a genuinely sweet, lovely person. And so she's
mm,
also attracted to her. And the
mm,
three of them just hit it off, although they're very different.
mm,
And the um, the point is that Liz, through their relationships, the three platonic
mhm.
love relationships, um, she helps they help each other with the issues they have to deal with, and I won't go into what those issues are because that would be
Right.
spoiler, but they all have some kind of family issue or some other kind of issue that, you know, they're revealed as the story goes on, and they help one another come to peace and acceptance and then
Hmm.
deal with their
Mm,
outstanding things that they need to deal with. So it's really it's a story about friendship.
mm.
And my favorite blurb was from another author, Jodi Angel, who I just love, and she said it's about how friendship can sometimes heal what the doctors can't.
Oh, that's really true. Friendship, love, and humor.
Yeah,
We've covered
absolutely.
that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is amazing. Yeah, yeah.
So
So
Liz is very snarky. She's a
mm,
snarky, not always consciously funny person,
So
but
now did they get past the green tea and the flaxseed? Did they change their meeting places?
they went off on their own, just the three of them instead of this
And
big
did what
group,
they want to? Yeah.
and decided they wanted to meet outdoors, take some
Nice. Much better.
walks or go listen to some jazz. They go
That's
to
cool.
well, they go take an excursion to Alcatraz because it's one of those things that if you live in a place, you say, "Oh, I can always go there," so I've never been there, and
Oh, and
uh,
so you're going to
y-
go to a prison of all
they
places.
go to I
It's
know,
like, it
and
that's
it's
yeah, wow.
yeah.
That, that's fascinating to do that and to put them in different scenes as well. So, and that's all
Mhm.
your backyard where you're writing about, right?
Well, it was, but yeah, it's set in Oakland, where I did live, but not years ago,
Mm,
and, um, I went back to Oakland many times, and that's not far from my home in
mm,
Sacramento.
mm.
Um, Bay Area, most of my family lives in the Bay Area, so
Cool.
yeah,
Lots of places to go and do excursions. And I think those meetings end up in the most interesting places, support groups. I was watching, oh my gosh, what is it? Louder Milk? It's a Netflix series, but it's for
hmm,
addiction groups, you
uh-huh,
know? And so and they have to meet in a church, and then, the
the whole
priest
church
isn't, oh,
basement thing, yeah,
yeah, yeah, but it does get funny. It does get really funny, and what happens in these support groups, because at the end of the day, these support groups are about pure honesty, whether it's going through cancer or addiction.
right,
Support group, you can't get support without being honest, I think.
right,
And I think with cancer, isn't that it too? It's like you have to have that pure honesty. Like you have to deal with
right,
it at some point. I
yeah,
mean,
open up, and, there is a theme of addiction in this book
mhm,
also, because I've been fascinated by the similarities in, both are chronic, relapsing,
mm,
um, terminal diseases if let let go, and if untreated. And yet,
mm,
cancer, I see my oncologist every 6 months. I'm fine right now, but I still go and I get follow-up care, and the slightest symptom, I can go in and I can get scanned and everything. If you have addiction issues, good luck. I
yeah,
mean,
and
you can go to the church basement and you can go to a 12-step program, which is great, but um, you're not going to get uh, continuity of
mm,
medical care. And that just bothers me with the millions and hundreds of thousands of people dying of addiction. So,
yeah, and addictions come from trauma, past traumas
exactly.
mostly,
Hmm.
and mental
Depression,
illness, pain,
anxiety, depression. Yes, pain.
physical pain.
Hmm.
I mean, the opioid crisis to me is a very sad thing,
Hmm.
um, and it's connected also with homelessness and people
Hmm.
experiencing homelessness. I know definitely in the Bay Area, of course, but
Yes.
I mean, I travel full time, and we see it everywhere, and I don't know, we don't we it just feels like a never ending cycle of no really
Yes.
fixing the root cause of it all.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like if
Yeah.
you can't see a bleeding wound, you're not hurt.
Right. Society is not wrapping its arms around the people who need it the most,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm glad you're bringing all these themes and it's like all these threads into your novel. I mean,
mhm.
isn't that part of it too? As a journalist, you have to get to the point, but you still have to have the sizzle of it. You can't get too wordy. You know
Yeah,
what I
okay,
mean? So
right. Oh,
so
absolutely.
did that
Chapter
help you with
9,000 is
this? Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. My reporting skills came in very handy, just, in terms of describing scenes. I went to these places and took notes, and, um, some of
Nice.
them are very real. Um, and I also, am not I don't have such a hard time, uh, editing myself, or,
Yeah.
throwing away those precious perfect paragraphs that
Oh,
I
we
wish
call
could
it
be in there.
killing the
Killing your
babies.
darlings.
Yes, well, I everyone says I need to stop saying killing the babies because I did that. We do a podcast on end of life with the
Uh-huh.
Soul Journey doula, and I think it was one of the episodes, and she just said, "Lisa, you can't say that. You need to rewind." Because it's such a usual thing that we're used to, and it's like
Right.
in the creative industry, the creative world is so hard in any kind of communications because you think you've this is it, and then someone like no because of that, and you're like, man, and it's harder, I
Yes.
think, maybe when you get into the novel side than like just the facts, ma'am, the
Yes,
facts, ma'am,
definitely.
right?
Yeah. So I had little tricks that I would do. I would have a paragraph or two, or a page, or a chapter even, that, you know, I love it, but it bogs it down, or whatever it was, it needed to go. But I would
Oh,
always put it in a separate document with this fantasy that,
just in case.
I can come back to it. I can put it back in. It's not gone forever.
That's
And
really
then,
smart because you never know, that might be a spinoff for something else,
could
you
be,
know?
or it just helps you forget about it and move on too,
Yeah, it just gives you a little padding. It's a cushion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you think you're gonna do another story, more novels, fiction?
Yeah, I am actually, I say I am working, but I'm not working because I've been working on getting this book out, but I do have almost a couple hundred pages of another novel of a draft, and I now know for sure that the first draft isn't close to the last one, um, but I do have something I will go back to work on once I get through
Mhm.
this
That's
yeah,
awesome.
promotion push. Yeah.
Do you see yourself doing book clubs with this kind of book? Because I feel like it would be kind of like a support group, of people
I would
meeting,
love
whether it's
to.
in Zoom. I think it would be a great topic,
Yeah,
you know?
I would love to do talks. I joined something called Novel Network. It's on my website where you
Mm.
sign up, where book clubs can sign up for free and
Oh, wow.
find authors to come visit either in person or on Zoom. So I
Mm.
hope that that works out because I do think it's a good. I mean, it's my book. Of course, I think
Yeah,
it's, but I do think it's it's rich with topics to discuss. I think
absolutely. And I think even for those who have friends, friends and family who are dealing with cancer. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't know anybody who has gone through cancer. I mean, it's
exactly.
very prevalent.
And then that's another reason I think I was sort of drawn to write this book is that I have in my life had so many people with cancer, both my parents, my best
Mm,
friend, another best friend, my boss, very close, people on my staff, um, a lot, and a lot
mm.
at a younger age. When you get to be my age, I'm 71-year-old debutante,
Hey,
but
hey, it's
author.
better than, late than never. And I don't think it's late. We
Yeah,
just did a podcast on this about women having multiple careers in their lives because
yeah,
just because you may retire from the industries kind of thing
right.
doesn't mean you don't do something else. Because I think, especially like if you're used to a newsroom and communications, you're used to deadlines and that go, 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 go.
Hmm.
And it's hard to just go, all right, now I'm
Gonna
just
go to
gonna
the
what?
pool now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
No,
insane.
no
I,
can
I
do.
I
Yeah.
mean I mean that's for other people. That is for
Hmm.
other people.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's insane for them. It's insane for me. I think I don't
I
even know
just,
if I
yeah.
could do that for a day.
No, I'm not good at it. I'm really not
Mm-mm.
good at just sitting on the couch, even in reading, and I love to read, but I have to either listen or be on an airplane. That's why I like that I'm on a lot of airplanes because
Yeah,
that's when I get the best reading done.
yeah, well,
Uh,
that's it. I think for sure, for sure. And I think that's what, when we talk about addiction for, those going through it, a lot of times, especially like smoking, and there's like this extra energy. And
mhm,
that's part of why addiction happens for some people is how to channel the energy. They make
mhm.
people knit and do all kinds of things to channel
Right.
your energy if you've got more than, one stream of energy, which a lot of us do. And I think
Mhm.
that's what I'm going to end up knitting when I'm in my
Creative
70s.
people. Yeah, I think.
I know how
Yeah.
to knit. I learned how to knit, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think when you have those yeah, it is that creativity, which is, but you've got a writing thing that's going on, so that's
Which I
exciting.
feel very lucky to have that because it's so much fun when you do get in the flow of writing,
Hmm.
and, it's very satisfying, and it's something I can do, while I still have 2 brain cells to put together, I can
I'm
keep
sure you
doing
have
it.
more than two brain cells, but at the same time, too, is it different writing in your own atmosphere, your own surroundings, your own home kind of thing versus in an office having to write? That's got to be.
Y Yes, and it's a pleasure, I have to say. I mean, I
Hmm.
worked in some really, really crappy, um, working conditions where we're all on top of each other and we all had to answer each other's phones when I was working at the wire service. It
Oh
was,
man.
um, and, it's constant distractions. However, this one thing, I think newsrooms and wire services are filled with people with ADD, which I kinda have. It's
Yeah.
because you hyper focus
Hmm.
and and you don't have long deadlines and big unwieldy projects where you lose interest. You just
Mhm.
got to do it, So
Yeah,
that's a
I think
bit
it
of a
there's
digression, but yeah.
I get like that, it's like, okay, we're in, and then it's like, okay, what? Go back to another thing now? What? Wait. But
Right.
there's something too that does make you focus all that energy around you, that hustle bustle makes you get it done. You know what I mean? It
Yes. Hmm.
gives you you really learn skills to not succumb to the noise,
Right.
you know? It really does. I mean, when we had our magazine's been going 27 years in this country this year,
Oh,
and it
great.
started in South Africa. My mom Nancy, and we're both still doing this. And I mean, when she had it in South Africa, I worked for her as a kid. And what was my job? Cut and paste. I mean, we're talking about cut and paste days.
Ah, the old actual cut and paste. And
And
did
your
you use
writing had to,
wax?
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it had to fit.
and then the typesetting and all of this stuff. And so whatever
Hmm.
you wrote had to go according to that. It was, now people are like, oh, edit for editing purposes.
Uh-huh.
But there was editing, just like you had to squeeze it into this amount of
You have
space.
12 inches. That's it.
Yeah, it wasn't even
Or
words. It was that. Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And now you work with writers that are like, yeah, but I need to get this in for this person or that. I'm like, it's
yeah.
called learn how to write.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way to anybody, but it is a skill.
Well, you made a good point though, because so much of writing is editing,
Mm.
is revision, is one of my favorite magazine pieces of all time was by George Saunders, who's, a wonderful writer. And he talks about this, about how people have this fantasy that you have an idea and it's all fully formed in your head and you sit down and you write it. Well, no, that doesn't happen. But then you you finally do, it may emerge on the page what you have inside of you to write. But then you've got so many, the real work comes in cutting out those extraneous words and finding better words and doing, you know, it's sentence by sentence, really. It's sentence
You're
by
really right.
sentence.
It's like sculpting in a
Yes,
way.
yes, yes. You
It
don't
really
just
is.
uh-huh. And I think he makes that analogy in this piece. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is like sculpting
Uh-huh.
away and taking away. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's like taking away the shadows to have light, but you have to have the shadows, otherwise you ain't got the light.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I want to go write something. You've inspired me to go write. I mean, well, I love the delete button. You get, and
Yes.
then I found myself a few times being too happy with the delete button.
Right. Little.
And Nancy, my mom, loves the delete button. If she could delete, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's
XXX.
dangerous. She's
Right.
dangerous. So, but I'm so glad you joined us today, and I'm
Thank
excited
you.
for your book, Almost Family. Everybody, Ann Bancroft author.com is the website, and it is out now everywhere.
Yay.
And
Yay.
and people get it from your local bookstores. Like,
Yes. Thank you.
that is a good important thing to do. But it has been a real pleasure having you on the show. So again, Ann Bancroft author.com. The link is in the show notes. Go to your favorite place to get the book. And I'm serious. I think this is going to be really good for book clubs and just even speaking, going out and doing speaking on it.
Great.
You know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
You
so
take
much.
care.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.